So come back at once. You haven't finished with me yet. You don't know how to fix the hyperdrive. Chewbacca can do it. I'm standing here in pieces, and you're having delusions of grandeur.
So, JP.
Hey, Ron.
So, guess who wins for Loser of the Week?
Who dat?
Josh Trank.
Shit. You know, Josh Trank has such a promising career there. Fantastic Four. Looks like it's going to be a big hit.
Yeah.
You know, it's
It's hard when you're 31 years old and you're handed the keys to the kingdom.
What was his other movie? What got him
Chronicle.
Chronicle. See, Chronicle's tied in with that other guy. Speaking of Twilight Zone, the movie which we were talking about off mic, Landis' son, Max Landis.
Okay.
He wrote that.
Yeah.
Max Landis is the guy who does all those, like... It seems like he's famous for doing a lot of internet articles, almost.
Oh,
like,
sure, right.
You know, like, he wrote Chronicle, but he also does a lot of, like... Did a video about, like, the death of Superman. Did a video about one of the WWE storylines about Triple H.
Yep.
He also did a whole bunch of Twitter tweets about his 300 and some odd page script for Ghostbusters 3 or something.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So he wrote Chronicle?
He wrote Chronicle, and it could be a thing like Tarantino. Like, if you've never seen a Tarantino movie and you don't know that he actually knows his shit,
yeah,
you might come to him and be like, this guy's annoying, right?
Sure.
But, because you don't respect his craft. That's where I'm at with Max Landis. That guy just gets under my skin. So anything attached to that, like, so Chronicle, I've never seen it because it's just like,
I saw it. It was good. It was decent.
I've heard it's good. That's my fault. That's my bias.
So Josh Trank was fired, supposedly.
Word on the streets.
Off the Star Wars Anthology 2 movie, whatever that's going to be. People are saying Boba Fett, although that seemed to leak out after he was let go.
Well, it's also kind of, yeah, right? It's like, I'm never going to do my Boba Fett movie. But, on the other hand, though, like, I feel like these rumor mongers, whoever they are, it's like, some of this stuff's just, like, educated guesses. It's like, first spin-off movie's going to be a Boba Fett movie. Yeah. Fuck, it's not a Boba Fett movie.
Right.
And it's like, next one's going to be a Boba Fett movie.
Right.
It's Boba Fett or Yoda, right?
Right.
Or Obi-Wan. But before we get much further, because we just said the magic word. The magic word is Obi-Wan. What are we, Ron? Who are we?
We are Delusions of
Granular. Yes, I'm JP.
I'm Ron.
And together we form Delusions of Granular. We are a podcast that talks predominantly about Star Wars. You can find our old podcast at Delusions of Granular. That's Granular, GRANULAR.com. All of our stuff's there, and of course it's also on iTunes, Stitcher, etc., which you should leave us a review on if you enjoy us or not. And Ron, how else can the fine folks at home contact us?
Always find us on Facebook at facebook.com/SWDog. That stands for Star Wars Delusions of Granular. Also, follow us on Twitter, SWDog77 on Twitter. You can also email us at swdog77@gmail.com. Keep those emails coming on in. If we like what we read, we may read it on the air, use what you said on the air, whatever.
I haven't taken a dip in the old mailbag recently. We need to...
we get a lot of junk. We need some
trash.
Real stuff, yeah.
Quit sending pictures of, you know what you're sending. Don't send that anymore.
No more naked Boba Fett pictures.
Yeah. Quote, unquote, Boba Fett. Okay.
You can also call us.
Yes.
Leave a message on our hotline.
I would really like to see this hotline pick up a little bit.
Yeah. Call us at 651-33-SWDOG. That is 651-337-9364.
We're paying that whole call center in the Philippines to take all the calls. And
right.
It's not cheap. It's cheaper than... domestic, but still.
Right now it's just me calling them when I'm lonely.
Yeah.
Talking to people in the Philippines.
Yeah. Say it slower.
So we started the show with the bad news of the week with poor old Josh Trank.
It is sad because whether it's true or not, it does give him the feeling of damaged goods, and it really kind of puts a bad vibe on the bad juju on the whole Fantastic Four thing.
Right. Yeah.
It's just a shame.
Yeah. I'm still interested in it. I think the cast is strong, and we'll see.
Well,
we'll see.
I feel for Josh Trank because, like you said, he's a young professional. He's had a very promising thing, and here's hoping he can bounce back from it. And
that's right.
Josh Trank, rest in peace.
So, I could go darker there, and I'm not going.
No, why go that way? Why go that way?
Now, when we have real fun news.
That's right.
Star Wars: The Force Awakens is going to be on a cover of a magazine.
Oh, yeah. I was like, when you said real fun news, I was like, yes, Ron. I went and tried to buy that magazine the other day because I saw it on Good Morning America.
Yeah.
I was randomly watching TV, and they're doing a whole thing for May the 4th.
Yes.
May the 4th be with you. And there's going to be a new Vanity Fair coming out that has a bunch of exclusive photos. We're going to see our first real set pics, our first real, not behind-the-scenes set pics, but, those, stuff where it looks right.
Sure.
But it looks supposed to be the movie.
Sure.
And I was like, oh, man, I'm pumped. Went down to the place to buy it.
Not out yet.
Not out. This was, what I saw was actually a teaser for an article.
Right.
Advertising.
Right. I think there was actually, there's a video, teasing the magazine article.
Yeah, I watched an interview with the publisher of the magazine talking about it, or the editor, being like, oh, yeah, it's a very exciting spread. I'm just like, what is going on?
Well, this is a tradition now. Annie Leibovitz is the photographer, and she is known for many things. But, she has photographed previous Star Wars films during production. She's
took the last known photo of John Lennon.
That's right. That's right.
You like that? Pulled that out of nowhere.
Yeah. So, she's definitely been connected to Star Wars. She must be a Star Wars fan, I assume.
I don't know. My understanding with Annie Leibovitz is that she is a very gifted and mercenary artist. I don't know if that's true, but that's...
Well, we got to see more pictures of Han and Chewie. They're going to be on the cover with our new... two new cast members, Daisy and John Boyega.
Yeah, we're getting to see some real good looks at Daisy now, and it's impressive. She looks very her costume is different, but very Star Wars.
Very Star Wars,
love it.
Yeah.
I'm really into it right now.
I'm really digging how good Chewbacca looks.
Oh yeah, you of course have noticed that. As far as I know, we haven't seen that other arm yet, have we?
No.
One arm has been obscured on the cover and everything I've seen.
We don't know if Chewbacca, although rumored, we don't know if he's going to have a mechanical arm or not. We'll see.
Yeah, here's open. What are you gonna? What else?
But they've released I don't know how many more photos are going to be in this magazine. They've released a ton. We've seen Kylo Ren, Adam Driver without the mask on. We've seen snowtroopers. We've seen
the faux cantina scene.
Yes,
which
we've seen aliens.
I do like that. That's I think I said this on a previous episode that seems to always be a thing. Is that especially with this movie? Yeah, that they're that's one of the big brass rings for them.
Sure,
is they gotta measure up to that.
Right. We've seen that Lupita Nyong'o.
Yeah, her mocap
face. And we got her name, too.
Mocap, no problems.
I think it's Maz Katana or something.
Yeah,
something.
whatever. Yeah.
Until we see an actual
see it, I'm not going to
character.
Remember.
Yeah,
I don't care.
Yeah.
I like how... Okay, this is weird.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say it, though.
Yes.
So Daisy Ridley.
Yep.
She's of age, right?
Sure, why not?
Okay, she's cute. Let's just say that. She's cute. I like that she's wearing... her outfit... It's not revealing. Right. It's not particularly even form-fitting, really. Right. It's not tight in weird places and stuff.
Right.
But it just shows a little bit of between the shoulder and elbow of skin, right?
Yeah.
And it's a weird place to everything else is kind of covered up.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes it more risque. Or so? Is it just me? Or is... Like, it's weird. It's cool. It's one of those things where it's like, that's a very tasteful way to be kind of, like, to add a little bit of sexiness to it.
Sure.
Without, like, giving it cleavage or cut off midriff like Natalie Portman in episode 2.
Right.
I was like, it's cool. They seem to be very conscious of everything, of every potential criticism.
Well, the rumor going around today, or at least I guess Vanity Fair actually interviewed JJ, and bits and pieces of the interview has been released to the internet.
Yeah,
and they're saying that he actually had to cut a lot of stuff from The Force Awakens that referenced the old movies, like callbacks.
Right.
Because I guess Lucasfilm or Disney was like, no, we don't want to do that. That's too much. So it's interesting, like,
or him, who knows?
Yeah, the restraint that they're kind of using with this.
It's unclear if they mean that by saying like things like "I've got a bad feeling about this," or if it's like specific plot points that take place in between the past 30 years.
Right. Well, it sounds like from what I read that they are going to allude to plot points that happened in the last 30 years.
Yeah,
but they're not going to explain everything. They're just going to allude to things and let the audience kind of be like, oh, okay. And
I forgot, he did have a line about, and is this still pulling from an article that's not out yet?
Yeah.
Weird. Yeah. What a weird world we live in. But he did specifically say that they were trying to be very conscious of, like, not laying pipe for potential spin-offs and potential, it's like, it's not like, oh, remember that 10 years we spent in whatever with so-and-so?
Sure.
Where it's not an advertisement for something else that's not made yet. Which I think is good to be cognizant of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm...
So far, they're saying all the right things.
Right.
Making all the right noises.
They are. So...
Making all the right moves.
Yes. Kudos to everyone involved so far. You haven't fucked it up.
Yeah. It's funny. It's interesting seeing how JJ handles things right now.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of actually... We'll see how it is afterwards. But I'm gaining a little bit of respect for him also in comparison, since we're doing some like little gossip mongery, pithy things on Director's Corner today. Joss Whedon seems to be having kind of like a little meltdown. Okay. Like
I was trying to avoid talking about that. But
was our last episode the Marvel?
The last episode we talked very in depth. Gave our thoughts on the Marvel Universe.
It's funny because I don't think we actually got very in depth. It was more just a therapy session about our feelings.
Well, since then I've seen Age of Ultron.
Yeah,
and enjoyed it.
Cool.
And since then, Joss Whedon has had his little Twitter meltdown.
Yeah, he quit Twitter again.
Yeah.
He said something about Jurassic World being very sexist or something. Yeah. I didn't follow that exactly.
Yeah.
And what was the other big? Oh yeah, he started talking about all the things that he had to fight for and things he had to cut.
Right. How he wanted he's kind of pissed at Marvel for kind of signing the deal on Spider-Man like after his movie was written.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like he got a little crazy.
Yeah.
And it makes a lot more sense now that like why they're saying that Avengers Infinity War is going to be by the Russo brothers and James Gunn's going to be doing this, and I was like, because when they started announcing that, I was like, well, where's the... Because he was kind of promoted as being, like, the big brain trust. He was the main guy behind Marvel, right? The creative force.
Right.
And it's like, well, it seems like all the big things are happening with other people. And it's like, oh, because he was really difficult on Avengers 2, maybe.
Well, maybe. Let's...
that might have been a little strong.
Let me just...
I back that up.
Let me just... all right. We'll just cut that out, or maybe not.
Thanks, Ron.
Sure. Let me just say this. Last episode, we were wondering if there's going to be a direct correlation between how the Marvel Cinematic Universe is being formed in front of the audience. Mm-hmm. Is that going to be the same case with Star Wars? Right?
Yes.
Having seen Age of Ultron, right? I think there's a key difference here.
Tell me that.
Age of Ultron and all of the Marvel movies are based off of comic books, right?
Yes,
comic books,
more or less, yes.
Yeah, I mean, they're comic book characters that have been around since the 60s.
Correct.
At least in Marvel's case, DC even further back. And what do comic books do? You read a comic book,
Yep.
right? And it's telling a story, right? But it's also kind of setting you up for the next story.
Sure, and it was
Right?
a cliffhanger. Yeah, it's a never-ending battle.
Never-ending battle,
Yes.
right? And I think that's a key difference because Age of Ultron does that, right? Like, it's not only a sequel to the Avengers and Captain America and Iron Man and Thor. Like, it's setting, like, it's also setting up, like, the next phase.
Well, it's interesting you say that because one of the big criticisms I've seen, I have not seen the movie yet, I plan to catch up with it by next year, is that people seem to be disappointed that it didn't set the stage more for the next
Oh,
thing.
no, I think there's a lot of things in there that it's totally like, well, what was that about? And like, there's to me, like...
Felt like some editorially mandated things,
yes,
perhaps?
Absolutely. And I think that was part of Whedon's problem was Marvel kind of was like, you got to stick this into your movie because we're trying to set things up for the future.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that might be a key difference. Like, Star Wars is, like, it's telling us a story, right? It's not...
Well, now story is, it's an anthology now.
Sure, but, like, it's not, like... it's not a comic book.
Right. Yeah, no.
It's not a comic book. Also, like... the amount of new characters that are introduced in Age of Ultron that are going to be... Well, the amount of new characters that are added to the existing characters that are showing up in Age of Ultron, like, it keeps kind of almost doubling.
Well, and I'll say this, too. Marvel, or a big difference is that Star Wars was conceived for and comes from film.
Yes.
And... while it does have a large catalog of characters,
Yes.
It doesn't have like the Marvel, here's the toy chest, because I feel like that is something that Marvel falls into. It's essentially we take out the toys. What toys are we taking out this time? It's Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. How does that work? You know.
Exactly. You just summed up more eloquently than I was able to. What the difference is? Well, no, but it's true.
We have
it
a
is
positive thing happening tonight.
Yeah.
We really expelled all the bad vibes last episode. So those 10 of you still listening, welcome to the Good Time Feel podcast. Yeah, tell your friends.
Yeah. So I don't think that. I think I would like to think that Star Wars is going to be different from Marvel, and they're going to handle things differently. Marvel is Marvel, and while I do enjoy it, like, Marvel was never my thing. Star Wars was always my thing.
But as we learned last episode, we don't have to choose.
We don't have to choose, right.
But I do choose to believe that Star Wars will be good.
I think that Star Wars is just going to be different.
Yes.
It's going to be something different.
Yes.
Something we haven't actually seen from a business storytelling perspective, something different. That's all.
Quite frankly, the thing that restored my faith the biggest was seeing Adam Driver's hair. That was some awesome Star Wars hair.
That is some awesome Star Wars hair.
That's sweet.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that was the kind of choices... Oh, that's not true. I was going to say the Padawan rat tail was pretty cool. I was going to say the prequels didn't really give us as much Star Wars hair, but the Padawan rat tail was good.
It gave us Padme and all her crazy out hair.
No, that never felt right.
No.
Maybe the first movie kind of did, but the other ones was like, eh.
We had Watto stubble.
Yeah, Watto stubble. That's what I'm doing right now is in celebration of Watto. One last bit of, since we're just covering up some superhero stuff.
Yeah.
Suicide Squad. What kind of batshit crazy stuff is that?
God.
It's kind of, I got to tell you, I'm more excited for that because I have no idea what's going on there. The closest equation I can see to it is like Nightbreed. The promo photos.
I don't know these characters very well.
Yeah.
I don't know anything. Like, I know Harley Quinn. And that's where my level of knowledge begins and ends.
And Harley Quinn is obviously very different from the animated series version that we all know and love. Looks maybe a little bit more like the Arkham Asylum version. I'm not exactly sure.
Sure.
But I've seen a lot of... This is going to sound bad. It's going to make it sound bad, Rob. Mm-hmm. But I've seen a lot of people talk about like how it's ruining the character and blah, 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 blah. But you know what it reminds me of? and this is immediately a bad comparison, but it reminds me of Batman and Robin, fourth Batman. Joel Schumacher.
Oh, sure.
With Poison Ivy.
Sure.
I used to I apprenticed for an inker for a while, and I was talking at this time. I was like, "Oh man, Batman and Robin movie, that was the worst." Blah 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 blah. And he was like, "If you can't appreciate Uma Thurman dressed up in that Poison Ivy thing, what are you gonna get?" And I was like, and I gotta tell you, if you've got Margot Robbie or whatever in your movie, yeah, put her in short shorts.
Sure.
Hell, don't give her the full bodysuit.
I'm on board with it because I just don't know what the hell it is.
Well, that's the thing. And I feel like that's kind of the DC strategy is be like, we can do anything.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that one just because it's such a wild card.
Yeah.
A Joker.
Okay. On that
whatever.
note,
Let's get back to Star Wars.
Well, wait a minute.
What it was?
Hold on a minute. What are we talking about tonight?
A little sci-fi fantasy film that came out in 1983.
Okay, Return of the Jedi.
No, better.
Better.
No, later because Return of the Jedi comes out in what was that, March or something?
May 28th, 25th,
nice
May
pull.
25th or 28th of. Well, it's usually historically Star Wars had come out around
May
Memorial
25th.
Day.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
No, this came out a little later in the summer, a little hotter. July 29th. National Lampoon's Summer Vacation.
July 27th. Wow. I got July 27th.
According to what I'm looking at, it's 29th. Who's to tell? Who's to tell?
Right.
But what we're talking tonight is about Krull.
Krull.
Now, I would be curious to know, and I hope that at least a few listeners use some of that contact information that we gave at the top of the show. Mm-hmm. So I'd be curious to know who here remembers Krull and what their memories are of Krull.
Well, sure. Absolutely. Why are we talking about Krull tonight?
That's a great question.
That is a great question.
I pushed for wanting to talk about Krull quite a bit because it's this weird movie. It's technically sci-fi fantasy.
Yes.
Clearly in the mold of Star Wars.
Yeah, it was kind of sold that way.
Right. It's one of the many films in the wake of Star Wars that was promoted as this could be the next Star Wars.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as you follow the film, and even more so upon rewatch, it really basically all the interview tidbits and stuff that came from George Lucas, hey, the power of myth, this and that, the hero's journey, it really tries to follow that roadmap.
Oh, sure.
Hard.
Yeah.
But also allows for some creativity and takes some weird turns. Instead of a lightsaber, we got a glaive.
A glaive.
The whole movie's built on the glaive, right?
Well,
Bro,
it's marketed
sold
that way.
It's sold on the glaive.
Marketed, and so the glaive is this five-armed boomerang.
It's a
with
part
blades.
starfish, part throwing star.
Yeah. Part sword.
Yeah. It's what's funny about it is it's a weapon that it's really cool looking.
Yeah.
And it's a great marketing thing, except for the fact that you can't really make a toy of it.
No.
It's
dangerous. You'll poke an eye out.
Even if you have an action figure, you can't even really get the scale right to make a good glaive to put in the character's hand.
Sure. Well, okay, so let's back up.
Yeah.
For a moment.
Sorry.
So we
I
know.
I got the glaive on my
is
mind.
so exciting.
Oh, I love the glaive.
So this movie comes out in 1983. I'm of the age where I'm going into Vietnam. Listening to CC.
Just been drafted.
Return of the Jedi had just been released. I'm becoming too old for being into these movies. So Krull completely. I'm aware of Krull, but I did not ever see it until literally a week ago.
So okay, so it piques your interest probably. At what point do you think it?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. Doesn't pique my interest because I don't acknowledge that, or I'm not aware of Krull until it hits cable. Okay, And
I feel like Krull got a real second life on cable.
I'm sure it did,
Yeah.
right? But it was
I think
also
that's where I
played.
saw it, actually.
It was also played like alongside like Beastmaster,
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
Dragon Slayer, Conan, and from our previous episode about Milius, I didn't watch Conan, right? So
Right.
I lumped it into that. Like, this is not a space movie. This is a sword and sorcerer movie, and I'm not into that.
And I think you just hit on the exact reason why it belongs on a podcast that's supposed to be about Star Wars. This movie, because of it, it really just takes all its influences and wears them all on its sleeve.
Yes.
And it becomes this nexus of Lord of the Rings, Dune, Star Wars, help me out, Excalibur.
Yes.
What-
The Hobbit.
Well, yeah.
That was Lord of the Rings.
Middle Earth. Conan. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And it really is all of these
Robin
things.
Hood.
Robin Hood. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gallantry, knights, etc.
Yeah.
Swashbuckling. Exactly. I think good Robin Hood is a good one.
Yeah.
And it kind of shows, just because it wears it all on its sleeve, how all of these things are kind of different shades of the same thing. Like Krull, in a weird way, for me, as I watched it again, it became like what's that? A Rosetta Stone
Sure.
of like, oh, that's why all these things are popular.
This is what the hero's journey is all about.
And it's purest, like Peter Yates, the director.
Yes.
This is like a very pure, straight up. This is the hero's journey, but with a few weird things, which I think would be remiss to not touch on.
Yeah. Let's back up for 1 second.
Yes.
Again.
Yes.
I did not. From the marketing alone, right? The marketing alone, like, literally puts this weapon up front.
Yeah, literally. Right? Yeah.
Like, it's a big thing in all of the posters, any promotions for this. That
Video
thing
game,
is like huge.
Yeah.
Right?
Pinball machine.
And for whatever reason, as a kid, seeing this on cable or whatever, it did not pique my interest. Okay. Watching the movie literally for the first time a week ago, shocked how small of a role the actual weapon has in the movie.
Yeah, it's a little weird. I feel like maybe. Do you think it was?
It was like in the movie for like 10 minutes.
Do you think it was like a cost thing, or?
I think they were just like, "Hey, we got this cool thing.
Let's not waste it. Let's save it up."
Yeah, but like, it photographs really well. Let's put it on all the posters.
Yeah.
It's shiny and it's got 5 blades on it.
Yeah, it is weird they didn't have more money shots of him whipping the glaive around.
Yeah, it was like they were almost afraid to use it in the movie.
Yeah. Oh, well, let's.
All right.
Should we get right into it? What the movie's about, or do you want to cover?
Let's get into what this movie. So you mentioned this was directed by Peter Yates. Peter Yates was known for not known for sci-fi fantasy. He directed Bullet.
Bullet with Steve McQueen. Famous
for the car chase, right?
Great car chase,
right?
Yeah.
The Deep, which was I believe that was with Nick Nolte.
I think you're right, but I don't remember The Deep.
Right. Breaking Away. That was a very much a cable favorite of mine. Breaking Away is Dennis Quaid. I think Dennis Quaid. It's right. The bike movie.
Oh, right? Yes.
Where the Paul Dooley is the father, and the son thinks that he's Italian, and because he wants to be a famous bike rider, right?
Okay.
Race bicycles like Tour de France.
This isn't a Kevin Costner film.
Is Kevin Costner in it? No, I don't. No. That's American Flyers.
Right.
Very similar movie. Okay. But this is just basically, these kind of lovable losers with no future that end up being
late 70s film.
It's very much a late 70s.
Yeah,
film.
that is like the era for like lovable losers, man.
Yeah.
It's like,
and they end up becoming victorious in a bike race.
Where are those like Bad News Bears and stuff nowadays?
Well, they've gone the way of the B movie.
Yeah, I guess
gone.
Also did Year of the Comet a little bit later with Tim Daly. Year of the Comet's one that this is in the 90s, late 80s.
All right.
This is one that I remember fondly because just a weird thing. When I was a kid, my grandma recommended it to my mom. My mom went out to buy it, and she bought Night of the Comet instead.
No.
Which is like an awesome B-movie, like schlocky horror film.
Okay.
That I watched probably 100 times because my mom bought it, and it was like we had like 2 VHSs.
Right.
It was like E.T. and Night of the Comet. But when I eventually saw Year of the Comet, it was also a very cute romantic comedy.
Sure.
It's about they're trying to find a really old wine. The whole thing, it's kind of this little adventure romp. Tim Daly plays kind of a Pierce Brosnan-ish role.
Interesting.
Which kind of fits.
Interesting.
And he's got a mustache. And
I know nothing of this movie.
Yeah, it's actually it's a pretty good movie.
Well, Peter Yates unfortunately passed away. He was 81. So good on him for making these movies.
He will
not be around for the remake of Krull.
Well, so I just don't even want to touch that one. So Year of the Comet also, Tim Daly connection. Just want to throw this out here.
Yep.
As I was like doing my internet research, I was like, oh, this is interesting. So Peter Yates directs Year of the Comet, starring Tim Daly. And Lysette Anthony, who plays the princess in this film, we're about to talk about, Krull, plays Tim Daly's girlfriend in the little scene Dr. Jekyll and Miss Hyde.
Ms. Hyde.
That's right. So Tim Daly...
Was that a feature film?
Yes, it was. Tim Daly is Dr. Jekyll, and he gets the serum, etc., and it turns him into this kind of like sexed up, evil Mrs. Hyde. Miss Hyde.
Who knew that Tim Daly did all these feature films?
Yeah, well, I think there was a point where it looked like he was going to pop. Then Wings.
Yeah. As folks, if you don't know who we're talking about, Tim Daly was basically the star of Wings, which was basically a Cheers ripoff.
A great Cheers ripoff.
Yeah. But took place in a small airport instead of a bar.
And he's also the voice of Superman in the animated series. He's done the voice of Superman many times.
All right.
So, geek cred.
Sure.
But yeah, that's a very weird movie that makes a young man have a lot of strange feelings as he watches this man turn into a really hot girl, and it goes back and forth.
Yes. All right, so
moving on.
Krull. The cast of Krull, the main character, Cohen? I don't even know the main character's name in Krull.
Well, that's really embarrassing.
Yeah. Well, it's not embarrassing because it's not really like...
He's Prince something.
Yeah, it's not...
Shit.
It's not really like a big deal in the movie. Like,
it really isn't. All the characters could literally be called Prince, Princess, Old Mentor,
King,
King.
Dead King,
Bad
Father.
Guy.
Yeah.
Except, oddly, the only ones that I remember titles for are the weird, offbeat side characters. Like the widow...
the Widow of the Web?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, she's probably the most memorable character for me.
So, the star of this was a man named Kenneth Marshall. And you may know Kenneth Marshall from other things such as nothing.
Well, not true. He's done a ton of TV work.
Sure,
he's
but
a very familiar...
this was like his only feature film.
Oh, yeah. Well, what's funny is he's a very familiar face. He's a very familiar character actor at this point.
Okay.
But the face is not the face from Krull.
No.
Because in Krull, he's got this amazing coif of hair and this beard.
Yes.
And
very pretty boyish.
Oh, yeah. He's Luke to the max.
Yes.
But nowadays, he's lost the hair. He looks a lot more stern. Life post-Krull does not look like it was particularly easy.
So a couple other actors that are familiar faces in this, probably not at the time, but have since become very, very famous familiar faces. Robbie Coltrane. Robbie Coltrane, very famous for playing Hagrid in...
Oh, yeah, that's right. He is a familiar face.
Harry Potter movies. Also,
good call, Ron. I didn't catch him. I was like, I did look at him and I was like, he's got the mustache, right?
Yeah, he's got like short hair and a mustache, and is also his entire dialogue is dubbed by a different actor.
And it was weird, like watching him. I was like,
he doesn't have as much weight on him as either.
Well, he's got some weight though. He looks a lot like the Shaun of the Dead guy.
Nick Frost.
Nick Frost. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, how did Nick Frost get in this movie?
Yeah.
Weird.
Another famous actor.
Qui-Gon Jinn.
Liam Neeson. Liam Neeson's in this as like thug number 2.
Which I think is how I initially sold you on the film that we need to talk about
I
on
was
the
like,
podcast.
he shows up, and I was like, okay, I get it. He's like the Han Solo character, and then he's like has like 2 lines. I'm like, huh.
I like how all the lines about him though were like about how much he likes to have sex and how much he like sleeps around.
Yeah.
Because famously Liam Neeson's supposed to have be a big Lothario.
Yes.
And all of the lines reference that. They say everything except that he's got a really big dick.
Other than that, I'm not too familiar with any of the other actors in this. They were all British. This was very much a British production.
Which is another hallmark of these not Star Wars films.
Yes.
They all kind of are done, if not directly on Pinewood. And I think that's just because it allows you for a great research, like a great resource of people who sound old-timey and British.
Yeah.
Going to Britain is usually a good place to find people that talk like that.
Right. Now you have in here that Francesca Annis was also in Dune.
That's right. She's the character, the
Widow of
the Web. Yes.
Now the Widow of the Web, this character that we keep mentioning, she is essentially if you've seen the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings movie, she's basically the Lady Galadriel equivalent.
I guess that's true. Yeah,
but mixed
kinda.
with the spider that's also in Lord of the Rings later.
And mixed with I
forgot the spider's name.
It's a very dark little
Rings.
character.
Yeah.
But she in this film she's she's the character we just said, but in Dune, the very next year, 1984,
she's
Lady J.
Yeah, she's
the main character's mother.
The main character. What's the? I forgot the main character of Dune.
The main character of
Starts
Dune.
with an A.
Atreides, Paul Atreides.
Oh right, Muad'Dib.
That's right.
All
the
right.
mouse who hides or whatever. I don't remember.
Hides in the moon.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So other than that, we have our typical tropes that we have encountered in Star Wars, Lord of the Rings.
But they're all punctuated.
They're all
it's like this is the moment where you meet the mentor.
Right. So the main character, Prince Colwyn, is getting married to Princess Lisette.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
And they're getting married because the armies need to. The families need to unite to battle the foes of the movie.
Incorrect. That is slightly true, but both the kings of the respective kingdoms don't like each other, and they don't want to become.
They don't
part.
want this to happen, but
reason they don't even want to do it tactically. They don't even want to do it for a strategic reason. They're getting together because actually the prince and princess truly love each other.
Yes,
and that's why they want it. And those two have actually pushed this to happen.
Right.
Because otherwise, the two kings hate each other.
But the kings kind of submit to it because they're like, oh, well, it'll make the armies stronger.
That is how they sell it. But, even right at the beginning, I don't know why I'm getting so passionate about this. But
you're very passionate about this movie.
Because that's the whole theme of the movie, Ron. Love conquers all.
Well, okay, so let's talk about the villain in the movie because that's
awesome.
That's what starts out, is basically... for me, a little bit of bait and switch. The movie starts out very Star Wars-esque. We have this very large starship coming to this planet.
Into it in a weird way.
Yeah, but it's instead of it being very man-made steel and metal, Star Destroyer is very organic rock-looking.
Yeah, it looks like a big mountain.
Yeah, and it's coming to this planet, right? Mm-hmm. And it lands on this planet, and other than the fact that it looks foreboding and it lands on the planet, we're just to assume it's evil.
Well, it's funny because the movie looks really oh shit, maybe this is the next Star Wars.
Right.
It's super awesome epic pans, and it's just you're watching this big kind of ominous scary thing, and then it just cuts to what is clearly a model being lowered onto a soundstage, and some dust comes out from underneath it, and it's just Oh, no, we're more in Ed Wood territory.
Yeah. Although, like, the budget for this was pretty extensive. Like,
yeah, and they do make good use of it.
Yeah.
Like, because it's also not a short film, Ron.
No, not at all. It's like, for the time, it was pretty long. It was 2 hours.
I mean, if they would have cut out about a half hour and spent the money a little differently, maybe we'd all be wearing Krull t-shirts today.
Sure.
You know?
So
maybe we'd be Delusions of Krull, you know?
Delusions of Krull.
That's my other podcast.
Docker.
Yeah. Doc MD.
So the whole premise of this movie is basically this evil comes to this planet. The actual name of the planet is Krull.
That's right. That's the titular.
Not like what I thought it was the throwing star. That's not the Krull.
I keep wanting to say that. Like, give me the
bad guys aren't the Krull. No, the planet they're on.
Yeah.
That's Krull, right? And the planet is really kind of
generic,
nondescript. Yeah, very generic fantasy
kind
land.
Kind of a nice fantasy land.
It's photographed really well,
yeah,
but
very,
other than that...
Very pretty, yeah. And there's actually some landscapes that are, like, really well shot.
Yeah. So, there's a battle at the beginning.
They have the twin moons and...
They do have the twin moons.
And twin suns? Towards the end, like, there's, like, two other, like, balls. And I was like, is that suns?
Oh, no.
Sure. Fuck it.
But, there's kind of a swashbuckling fight at the beginning of the movie. Kind of kills off both the kings.
Well, yeah, the marriage is going to go down.
Yeah, this is during the marriage ceremony. So
that's
married by fire.
Now, that was a weird little sequence. That was to, like, tip everybody off. I guess it was like, so I know we started in space, but there's actually also fantasy.
It's fantasy.
Because the marriage ceremony, he's like,
Take my fire.
And he has this. He dips his hand in something, and he gets fire on his hand.
Yep.
And
hands it to her.
She takes it, and they like throw it.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where these are the kind of things that make movies that aren't Star Wars not Star Wars.
Yeah.
When like this internal logic is just kind of like, this feels very slapdash. Like, what's that mean?
Right.
I take your fire, we release our fire, and give it back unto us.
I know you're my true love because you can handle my fire.
Yeah, like it would have.
Like, it's goofy.
But like fire is like a theme throughout the film. Like later on, they ride the horses with the fire hooves.
Oh yeah, the fire mares.
And then he dips his hand into the lava stuff to get the glaive.
Yeah.
So at one point, I was like, "Is this an alien species that like fire doesn't hurt?"
I don't know. Yeah,
right. It's if only we would have gotten that Krull too.
If only. So
that's what
the bad guys show up. They're kind of like stormtrooper-y like guys.
Yeah, but there's a weird twist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're alien.
They're worms.
They're worms, wormy creatures.
They're big worms wearing robot man suits.
Yeah, and they're shooting like ray guns.
Yeah.
Right. But the effect is way poorer than Star Wars.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's kind of
I didn't think the effect was
that
bad.
And there's sword fights, but not laser sword fights, just sword fights.
Yeah, which is interesting too, because like as I was watching it, I was like, God, Lucas is a genius for making a sword that doesn't bleed.
Mm-hmm.
Like that really is the genius of the lightsaber.
Yeah.
Like it looks awesome, it's shiny and bright color,
it doesn't
cause blood. It's like whenever they'd like break one of those things apart, the robot would like break apart, and this gross bloody worm thing would come out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was like, ew, blood.
So both the fathers are killed in this battle.
I don't know if they're both killed on screen. One
is, but the other one, I mean, they're both basically, the kingdom is now in the hands of this newly married couple.
And most importantly, the bride is abducted.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the crux of the story, is kidnapped bride.
Yep.
We've never seen this story told before. We've watched
Mario and Luigi.
Exactly. So she is taken captive, and this is the plot of our story now.
She's taken captive at the Death Star, Mordor.
Yeah,
insert whatever
the
bad
newly
place.
Married prince, now king of the kingdom, needs to save her and also save the entire kingdom from evil.
This was a cool. Here's the deal. The swashbuckling at the beginning, so we get this marriage going down. The marriage is a little funky. It's okay, although we're in a weird fantasy land. Then we had this attack happen. And it's really cool swashbuckling, like cool old school Errol Flynn style swashbuckling.
Very much so.
And I was kind of into that. I was like, that was kind of cool. And it kind of reminded me, I was like, this is like something I like in Star Wars, like that kind of stuff. And then it just cuts to everyone's dead.
Yep.
The ballroom's empty.
Yes.
And
our main hero, Colwyn, also was injured in the fight, and he's kind of passed out.
He's like splayed out on the stairs, and there's an old man treating his wounds.
He has a little boo-boo on his shoulder.
Yeah. And right away you find out this old man's kind of...
Old man shows up. Old mentor.
Yeah, crazy old mentor. Not crazy old mentor.
Crazy old wizard.
Yeah. But
go off on some damn foolish crusade.
But he... So right away you know who this guy is. Like, oh, he's some old hand that's going to teach him some stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like... At that point I was like, this movie's moving at a good pace.
Sure.
I'm like... Yeah. Krull is like, maybe it's a little rough around the edges, but like Krull's moving right along.
Yeah.
But it doesn't quite sustain that pace from here on out.
Well, he kind of tells Colwyn he has to go get the...
he lays down the exposition of how the movie's going to play.
Got to get the glaive, and only the worthy can climb the mountain and get the glaive from the lava.
There was a cool little kind of classic moment though, where he's like treating his wounds and stuff, and he's like, "They're dead, they're all dead." Yeah. And he was like, Luke at his whiniest times 30.
Yeah,
and he was just like, "Yeah," and like he's like, and the old man's like, "I came here to find a king, and I found a weeping boy," and like the guy's like, "Well, when I was trying to do the thing," and he's like, "Who are you, and the old man?" And the old man's like, what is the old man's name?
I don't know.
Yeah. Old man mentor, And it
old
really
man mentor number 1.
Yeah, that's right.
Because there's more later.
It really doesn't matter. But he... That actor looked familiar, though.
Yes. Freddie Jones.
Freddie Jones. Yes. He looked super familiar.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Been in many other things.
Great.
That I didn't look up.
That's okay. And, but he says whatever his name is, and Colwyn's like, "You're so-and-so." Like, it's clear right away, just from the dialogue, that he was like an old hero.
Right.
Who's gone into exile.
Well, it's clear because we've seen this movie before.
Yeah,
we've not
seen
any of these. If you're new to the whole hero journey, power of myth, like...
You're not. Like
this movie's not going to clear that up for you.
No.
They're not going to tell you what's going on.
But what's weird is we're going to take about a 45-minute detour in the middle of the movie, and then we're going to kind of explore those things, weirdly.
But first we're going to take like a 10-minute detour of Colwyn climbing a mountain.
Yeah.
Like 10 minutes.
This is kind of like, we don't really get any Colwyn training. It's assumed that Colwyn's a badass. We saw him fighting.
He's got tight pants.
He's wearing some tight striped pants. This is like very like... Yeah. Peter Yates was like, they think they know old serials? Check this out.
Yeah, very much like Errol Flynn, tights.
And I wasn't necessarily into the tightness, but I kind of dug the stripes. It was kind of like Flash Gordon-y, But, so they don't have a training sequence per se. They instead have just we gotta get the glaive. And
only the worthy can climb this mountain.
And he's like, I've got...
Get it.
It doesn't even look like a very steep mountain. Like, it's not really like... It's not like cliffhanger action sequences. It's like a steep hill.
The settings in this that are not natural are very cool.
Yeah,
but also very fake at the same time.
Well, it's weird. The setting he goes into
the mountain he climbs is all the rocks are very symmetrical.
Oh yeah,
right.
Well, yeah, that's kind of the look of Krull. Yeah, the world.
Yeah. Even though at times they're not, because you can see he's climbing an actual
because some of it's a real place. But so he literally goes into a cave, and that's like a hero's journey thing, right? You go to a cave to find yourself or something.
Yes. He has a vision quest.
Yeah, and he literally goes to this cave. In this cave, I'll be damned if it didn't look exactly like the last episode or second to last episode of Lost. No, last episode.
Okay.
Of Lost, where Jack has to go into the cave and put the plug, and we just look super tired, and he's talking to Desmond. He's like, "What do I gotta do?" And Desmond's like, "I gotta put that plug in the thing." And Desmond's like, "Yeah, do that." And it was just like this sad ending of just okay, we gotta fulfill the plot. Let me put the plug back in. It looked just like that.
Well, I like that Colwyn literally puts his hand in molten lava.
That's the thing, is it's like What?
Once more, fire is like does not have any effect on these people.
And he has this weird moment too, where he's like looking at it. He's like, "The glaive," and he looks at it, and he doesn't even seem worried about the molten lava. He's just like,
not at all.
"Well, I'm a fucking
just
prince.
Gotta get it. Yeah,
I'm gonna do it."
Yeah. Pulls it out, and I like.
It's all covered in like crust.
Yeah, it's like got like hardened lava, all around it. And as he pulls it out, the lava like breaks away from it, and it's this very shiny, metallic object now.
Yeah.
Like doesn't need to be polished or anything. It just needed to have the the hardened lava break away from it.
And if
it fell away like no problem. It flaked away like it was dandruff or something.
And if anyone thinks that Kylo Ren's lightsaber is impractical, they couldn't have seen the glaive.
Yeah,
because the glaive is like we forgot to mention this. Not only is it like a starfish, like a sword, and like a throwing star, it's also like a switchblade.
Yeah.
So when you get it, it's just like 5 hilts all facing away from each other in a star pattern.
Exactly.
And then you click something, and
blades
pop out of each
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
So the thing is, one of the parts you're holding on to
could cut you.
A blade's going to pop out of it.
Yeah.
And because you can't it doesn't seem like you could do just one blade.
It's not really, it's not
so
the
there's
most
not really a
practical
good
weapons.
place to hold it.
Right.
But, because that's what he does. He holds it up and then he's like, chink! And it's like, holy shit, you're lucky you didn't hold that centimeter the other way. You'd be dead.
Yeah. So he goes back to the old mentor, and the old mentor's like,
he's like,
okay.
I did the thing. And they're like, great, level 1 complete.
Yeah, I guess,
Let's go find a fool so we can have some comic relief.
It starts to play like a video game. Like, okay, level 1 achieved.
That's, it's...
Go to the next level.
Yeah. And as I was watching it, I was like, this feels very like you said, a video game. Like there's levels, like it's episodic.
It's very episodic.
And that's when it clicked with me too. I was like, this would really actually play a lot better as a serial. As a series of 15-minute shorts.
Well, the thing that got me about this, and again, I'm going by
we should make a fan edit of that. Of Krull.
Turn Krull into a series?
Yeah. Just turn it into put in little title sequences and stuff. The Adventures of Krull, episode 1. In our last episode, Colin got the glaive.
Right. So the second episode 2, the pirates.
No. We don't get the pirates yet. We got the fool.
Oh, the fool.
Yes.
We get a
comic relief.
Comic relief. Yeah, I forgot about him. I wrote him off.
For me, is the first true misstep of the film.
Yeah. They meet. And he's a fool / jester
magician.
He can change things, but he's always getting his spells wrong.
Well, he's part blind, right? He can't.
Is he?
Well, early on, he doesn't seem like he can see very well.
Oh,
right?
Completely oblivious to that. I don't know.
Well, it seems like they kind of neglected that plot point as they went on.
Yeah.
But he talks big about himself. He's like, why? He's got a whole little spiel whenever he meets people. Yeah. He's like, I'm so and so. Why?
Well, his name is he's like Elrond the Great.
Yeah, something the Magnificent.
Yeah.
Elrond, and he's a fantasy character like that.
Yeah.
But he's supposed to be a funny fantasy character who's got a big, high, important idea of himself, but he's not. He's a fool.
He's a fool.
And
always gets his spells wrong.
Anytime he tries to do a spell on someone else, he does it on himself. He's like, I'll turn you into a duck.
Yeah.
What? And then he's
turns himself into a duck.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And also, at this time, I forgot what year Willow came out.
Oh, it's very Willow.
Right? But,
yes.
The whole, metamorphosis special effect of turning someone into, a human into an animal, everyone must have caught wind to the special effect in Hollywood because they did it in Willow.
Yeah.
And they did the exact same effect here in Krull.
Yeah. And
he turns into a pig, he turns into a duck, he turns into a tiger. It's the same stupid it's half practical effect.
It's the CGI cluster of its day.
Yeah.
It was it's good you brought that up because as I was watching it, and also the actor they have playing him is very, very British. He's not British in a stodgy way, more like a member of the Who.
See, I thought, I was like, is this someone from Monty Python?
It's just a goof. It's a gross, goofy guy.
Yeah.
And that vibe reminded me so much of Willow. I was like, think of those like bad comic relief characters they had in Willow.
Kevin Pollak.
Like,
the brownies.
Like, as I was watching it, I was just like, oh, this is so...
Yeah.
This is the worst of Willow.
That is the problem with this movie. Like, it's shot well. Like, the production values are pretty good for its time, right? It's telling a coherent story. The acting, like, there's nothing really wrong with any of the acting,
no.
Right? But every time it comes across the next trope, you're like, we're going there.
Yeah.
Like that. We're doing that.
Like, the ones that work, you're like...
It's so cliche. It's weird because this came out in 83, right? Prior to this, we had Star Wars, right? And we had
Empire and Jedi.
Yeah, we had the whole Star Wars trilogy, right? And we had other, science fiction ventures. But as far as like fantasy goes, like we had books, we had Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings hadn't really, like the Ralph Bakshi cartoon had probably already been out.
I think so.
Right?
Well, I don't know. Had Excalibur come out? I think so.
Okay, but like,
yeah, Excalibur had to come out before 83.
Sure, yeah, maybe
not.
But like, it's like they hadn't quite figured out, like, they had the ideas, they just hadn't really figured out how to flesh them out into something that made
I think fantasy, whole. Yeah, and I think fantasy also is so reliant on organic, like much like superhero movies, like it's so reliant on organic looking fantastical elements.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like the Hulk.
The
like
pizzazz of it all.
Yeah, like their things have to look like living things. Or, you know what I mean? Like
it's
a living walking tree.
I see what you're saying. I was just like, they're selling it on the glaive, and the fantasy of this. So they're like, we don't have to color in the background.
Like
we can just sell it on the pizzazz.
Yeah, it's harder to sell a world like it looks like you said, like in scenes that are shot on a soundstage. It's like, this cave looks great. Krull's an angular world. Then when you take it away and you show like a distant shot, and it's like, it's a
rock.
It's somewhere in Ireland.
Yeah. They're just. The thing that I go back to is like the people that are like complaining about the prequels they sucked or even now, like I know Age of Ultron made a lot of money over the weekend, a lot of people liked it. There's still some people out there that are just like, it didn't really make there's plot holes, things didn't make sense. Yeah, but go back to like 20, 30 years ago. Like, plot holes all over the place. Like,
that's the thing. We talked about this on last episode, is that everyone's become a critic. It's just so...
Like Krull, although wasn't a big success, like, it was a major production.
Oh, certainly. It's weird. Like, it's not a total throwaway.
Yeah, it's not a total throwaway. I mean...
But the problem is, we're coming up on the problem, and that's the pacing.
Sure.
Shortly after we meet the Fool...
we meet the band of pirates / prisoners, right? And that's where we get our Liam Neeson.
Yep, he's the
that's
second
where we
one.
get our Robbie Coltrane. They're part of this band who, don't want to belong. They're rebels.
They're
a group of rebels, outlaws. They don't want to belong to anyone. And somehow our main character is able to convince them to join his cause because, they kidnapped my woman.
That's one thing I like about Coleman, is that like he's very much of he's an aristocrat. He was born and raised a prince.
Yeah.
And every situation he encounters, he goes in with full confidence, like
charge.
full balls, on, like just like like of course I could put my hand in lava. I'm a goddamn prince. If someone's gonna be a chosen one, it's gonna be me.
Right.
Like of course. And there's even one point where he's got a bunch of bravado against all the pirates. Where it's like they're like, you're surrounded by 10 men. It's like, need 100 more.
Yeah, right.
It's just like,
Right.
wow.
Just thought of this right now.
Yeah.
Like, if they really wanted to kind of remake this movie,
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be great as like a musical on ice. Krull on ice. Where at like all of a sudden, Prince Colin needs to, get the gang of pirates to become his allies.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And the way he does it breaks out in song and
Yeah.
dance on ice.
Played by Hamill, that one guy. The
Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
Mark Hamill.
No. The figure skater guy.
Brian Boitano.
Nah, whatever. But he got the tight pants. Yeah, sure, it plays. Works for me. Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing is like
Good Kickstarter going.
the movie is so caught up in like not caught up, but like it so relies on the cliches that we now take for granted that it could easily be like, well, okay, instead of just remaking Krull and making it, in this day and age, darker and grittier,
Yeah.
like you could just make it a Broadway play.
Yeah, as we were talking about this off mic, you were talking about a possible remake, and it was just like, why would you remake Krull? Like, we've already remade it.
Yeah, we've
million
remade it
times.
a million times.
Like,
yeah.
The only thing we're missing is Glaive.
The glaive.
The glaive is really the
glaive.
linchpin.
Yeah.
But,
well, okay, so
we have a few more characters get on the board.
yeah,
here.
we'll get back to the glaive because I want to talk about the merchandising or lack of
Yeah, it's kind of
for
weird.
this movie. Yeah, so let's
So they get the rebels.
the rebels they join
up
them.
with them.
Yeah, so now we have this group.
It's a combination of bravado, and I think there was a little bit of promise of reward. And oh no, the deal was that they had kids.
Oh yeah, and
That's-
kids will live on.
Yeah, and well, because the whole planet theoretically is somewhat under the tyranny of this alien
beast.
species.
Yeah, which is just called the Beast.
I don't remember what. Yeah, I think so. But they're essentially, I kept equating them to the Yuuzhan Vong in the EU.
Sure,
Because they have like an
very
organic
Yeah,
spaceship. They're
right,
like
right.
weird creature things.
Right.
So
So
Star Wars connection. Loose.
trying hard
Trying
to
hard.
just connect this back to Star Wars.
So,
They need to basically find where this evil fortress is going to be, where the princess is captured.
yeah. Oh, I
right?
forgot to mention one of the bandits is also a young boy.
No, not yet.
Oh no, it's a young
Not
man. There's a young man who gets the bandits to start to turn.
Yes,
he's going to join first.
Yes,
And go and shames
I have
them
kids. Yeah.
all. Yeah.
But so they need to go.
So the boys, the wizards.
Right. They have to find out where the fortress is going to appear. So they find this wizard in the swamplands.
Because that's the other thing about it. The enemy is, we'll call him that.
Yeah, the enemy
is like
the beast enemy.
The main bad guy who runs all the worm people.
Yeah.
Is omnipotent.
Yes.
He sees all.
Sees all.
He knows all.
Very,
he can
very,
do anything.
Eye of Sauron, like.
Oh, thank you for bringing up eyes. When we met the Fool, also, we got a tease of a one-eyed Cyclops character.
Correct. Yes.
Yes.
The one-eyed side. There's a lot of eyes in this. So there's
eyes becomes
eye,
a big theme in the movie.
The eye of. So you have the Cyclops.
Yep.
Right. Which is
Which is kind of just stalking him at this point.
stalking them, and and the Fool character thinks that he's threatening.
Yes.
Although he ends up being an ally.
Uh-huh.
Also, the princess. We keep cutting back to the princess, kind of captured in this fortress. Right?
And she's on a soundstage that's shaped like an eye.
An eye, yes.
And it's like, what the hell is...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't look like the rock formation that we saw earlier.
It's kind of, if I recall, sometimes it looks like other parts are different parts of like,
a face?
Like she's inside of a
in
giant
giant
head.
face, right.
Yeah.
Right. But that doesn't really play through.
Like there's one part that looks like kind of like an esophagus, like a throat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, when they finally get to this
It's very
fortress,
weird.
like the outside of the fortress looks very much like a rock formation.
Yeah, like
right?
straight up just Mount Doom,
and then when they
whatever.
get inside the fortress, at the end, it's very smooth surfaces.
Very organic.
It feels very much like you're inside internal organs.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, it's
Which
weird.
once again, used on Vol.
Yeah. All right, so they come across this old wizard because there's an overabundance of old mentors in this movie, right? We have the old mentor that tells them where the glaive is, right? That heals the young prince,
Okay.
right? And well, he's not old enough, so we need to find another old mentor, right?
Well,
and that's this
I
wizard guy.
I would say this still plays with the original theory. I mean, this is more your Saruman character. He's your false, like he'll ultimately be,
well,
or your Yoda character. Perhaps?
Yoda character, but there is a falseness to him because the beast, the bad guy in this, right? He takes the form of this wizard and leads them astray.
And another classic moment of the film, quicksand.
Quicksand.
Yes.
So that is the trash compactor scene of the movie.
Oh, it's great. So here's the other thing. So they find the wizard.
Yes.
The wizard also has a young boy. I'm not sure what the relationship is there.
See,
it seemed like a Mickey Mouse.
Nope. See, here's the thing.
Wizard Apprentice?
I thought the young boy would grow into the old wizard. Like he was just kind of a clone or doppelganger of the old wizard.
Oh.
Like it was just...
Did you just infer this?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah, I totally did.
You made this up.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
I was drinking during the movie. I was like, the kid is going to grow into the old man. Right?
Nice,
He's just kind of taking... It's his offspring.
Sure.
Right?
Like he grew another him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what he is.
That's
right?
cool, Ron.
I
good
like, at this point, I'm like rewriting the movie.
Well, that's like... It's kind of a weird thing with the movie is a lot of it's such an open canvas in some ways.
Kind of an open canvas.
Because it gives you just hints of things, too. Like, it's never spelled out what the enemy is exactly.
No.
It's just like, when you kill them, we see a big worm slug come out and go in the ground.
Yeah.
Which is bizarre.
Yeah.
But...
So... I forgot where are we at
so
with
we
our
have the
characters?
wizard, and the wizard has a little boy.
Yes.
The fool befriends the little boy.
Yes. Also, the fool at this point has befriended the Cyclops character. The Cyclops character
I thought
is
that was
like,
after the little boy. Maybe not.
It's around this time.
Because I thought it was like
we find out that the Cyclops character is actually looking out for them. He's not evil, but he's also doomed to. He can see the future, but he can only see his future death.
Because his people made a deal with the beast.
Yeah.
And they sold out whatever. Who knows what they sold out? Land, other people.
I don't know.
And the beast gave them a false deal because they wanted to see the future.
Right.
And the beast gave them the power to see the future, but only see their own death.
Okay.
It's a false deal. Don't make a deal with the beast.
Let's stop right here.
Yeah.
Okay. I know the name of the show is Delusions of Granular.
Uh-huh.
I think we've reached my level of granularity with this.
Okay, you want to keep
discussing the plot on this?
Yeah, okay,
because it's irrelevant.
You're totally right. Yeah, we don't need to do we're almost going to do a 2-hour summary of Krull. No. By the way, folks, I'm pretty sure there's Krull adaptations on YouTube in various forms. If, you want to skip around.
You can watch all of Krull on YouTube.
You totally are right, Ron. This is a good place to stop. We're about to get really in depth here.
We're now retelling Krull in a better way than the movie was actually told.
Well, because you start giving all this cool backstory about how the wizard makes a little wizard of himself.
Yeah,
that's weird.
All right, let's get into the nitty gritty of like the background of this movie.
Yeah, let's do some of that.
I like this. Right, the creators of the movie. This movie was kicking around Hollywood, or Britain's version of Hollywood, in 1980. Right?
Okay.
The movie came out in 83.
Right.
It was kicking around before that for 3 years.
It was kicking around the time where it's like, this Star Wars thing is big.
Yeah.
It's really big.
We need to cash in on that, right? We need to cash in on this.
Yeah.
But we need to cash in on it in a way where we don't actually have to pay someone else.
Right.
So let's make this... Let's make this a Dungeons and Dragons movie.
Oh yeah, that's big.
Right?
Kids love it.
That's huge. All
Oh.
the nerds love that.
Yeah.
You know, we'll make this a legitimate Dungeons and Dragons movie.
Yeah.
Right? But let's not tell the actual creators of Dungeons and Dragons that we're doing this.
Yeah, it's like we had that conversation. You're like, hey, let's make this Dungeons and Dragons movie. I'm like, oh, okay, great. I guess we'll look up and find out the address of the people who make Dungeons and Dragons. And you're like, whoa,
whoa. Why would no?
They want
some money for that. No.
I mean, have you seen how much Star Wars made? I mean,
yeah, no, we don't want to pay people for this. Yeah.
Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, what kind of name is that?
Yeah.
What's a better name? Krull.
Right. At some point, this was actually going to be called Dragons of Krull, even though there's no dragons in this.
Oh, what assholes! That is true.
Yeah.
It's weird. A dragon would have been useful here.
It could have.
There's
yeah.
really not a lot of creatures.
No. Not
There's
at all.
only really one, other than like the bad guys.
The Cyclops.
Well, yeah, and the Cyclops is. I mean, if you're going to be turned off by the marketing of this film, the Cyclops is going to do it. The Cyclops is bad looking.
Yeah.
He's bad.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking the spider.
Oh, the spider. Yeah. Which was basically just a real spider, right? They just filmed
I don't
that?
know. I don't think that was a real spider. I think it was some kind of stop motion effect.
Oh, maybe.
But but I don't understand the relationship with the spider to the woman. That continues to puzzle me.
Yeah, that's weird. It didn't.
But I want to talk about that later.
Combining tropes.
Yeah. Because it got really weirdly into the backstory of the mentor.
Yeah, at that point, all of a sudden, there was.
Mentor had this whole backstory.
Yeah, the whole front end of this movie, light on backstory, right? We don't really know what the glaive was doing in the lava, right? Then the ending of the movie, light on backstory. We don't really know who these bad guys were, what their intentions were, what their motivations were. The middle of the movie with the old man, old mentor number one, and he has to confront the widow of the web, and he has a past relationship with her.
Let me just run this down real quick. So they need to find out because the castle, fortress, mountain, evil place is always changing. You never know where it's going to show up or how.
Yeah.
So they need to see the future.
Yes.
And he's like, well, I know a way, the widow of the web. And they say, no one can see the widow of the web because, she's evil and she'll kill you.
Yep.
And he's like, she wasn't always like that.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? And he's like, goes off on his own little personal quest. Yes. And he goes and finds her, and it turns out he used to know her when she was a young girl who coincidentally had the same name as the princess.
Yeah.
Anastasia or whatever.
Lisette.
Lisette, yeah.
Yes.
Was that it? Alyssa? I don't know. Whatever. It doesn't matter.
Illicit.
Sure. Illicit. Has an illicit affair. So she's apparently some kind of spider woman.
Yeah.
But she used to be a beautiful young girl.
Right.
And he was in love with her, and they had a relationship, but he had a bunch of nightly duties, and he was always leaving to go, fight nightly stuff.
Yes.
And he left her while she was pregnant to do some kind of crusade. He didn't know she was pregnant. She gave birth and killed his baby. And this is spelled out. This isn't I didn't infer this.
I know you're not.
And he's like, and it's this weird thing where two kind of seasoned actors are just playing off each other.
Yeah.
So it's got all this gravitas to it. It's like, why is this happening right now? Yeah. And she's like, you could never love me. And she keeps changing from being a young woman, which is how he's seeing her through his eyes, to being a really aged, creepy old hag,
right?
Which is how she really looks. And she's like, you could never love someone who killed your baby. And he's like, could I not see you with mine eyes? And it was just very intense and very weird.
Very intense is not the word. Melodramatic is the word.
Yeah, that might be true.
Yeah.
But as I was watching it, I was like, Obi-Wan needed this. It would have been nice to get a little bit of this with Obi-Wan.
Yeah. It definitely was all of a sudden it threw something in. I feel like the makers of the movie were like, you know what? We need to throw some gravitas into this movie. Let's throw it all into this section and forget about the other characters.
Yeah.
Because the other characters would have...
They're all paper thin. Yeah. Well, it's almost...
But also, the old man is kind of paper thin after he, prior to and after he leaves the scene. I don't even know. Does he die?
Yes, he does. And I had to actually watch part of this again because I was like, what happened to the old man?
He's just not there at the end.
She has this sand that's in an hourglass. Oh, yeah, right. And that's her time.
That's her time.
And she breaks the hourglass open and gives him the sand, which is going to kill her, but will allow them to see the future enough to know when the thing's going to show up. Right. The big mountain.
Oh, that's right.
And He literally
takes the
runs
sand.
apparently miles
with the sand,
in his hands,
Yeah.
cupped.
Because if he drops the sand, he's dead.
Yes.
Yes.
I didn't put that together, but that's exactly what happens.
That's exactly what happens.
Because he gets there and he's like, the mountain shows up tomorrow! And like drops it and then dies. And Colwyn's like, and then he gives Colwyn some advice like, use your power wisely. And Colwyn's like, what do you mean, the glaive? It's just a 5-sided sword thing. I don't. What? Is that my power? Can I do more?
You would think.
Yeah. Can I see the future? Where'd you get that powder? Anyhow, sorry, that was the only plot point I really wanted to cover because it's badass. It's just weird.
It's a worthy, plot point.
It's in the middle of 45 minutes of boring shit happening.
Yeah.
Like, that's the problem. This movie really gets
There's
boring as hell.
There's a little bit of a pacing issue with this.
But then there's this weird scene thrown in that gives this character a whole backstory that we didn't need and was just bizarre.
It was bizarre, yeah.
But anyhow. So it kicked around Hollywood for a while before someone decided to make a not Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah,
so they didn't. It ended up not being a Dungeons and Dragons movie, so they didn't have to pay those guys. But they did.
TSR people, yeah.
They ended up like this was an expensive movie. Like this was actually like the most expensive movie production of its time.
Outside of Return of the Jedi, right?
No. Like they said it was actually they said it was actually more like it's known as the most expensive production of its time.
That's rough.
Yeah. Like so obviously it didn't really make its money back.
Well, famously 1984 is kind of
83.
No, I know. But 1984 is often referred to as the best summer movie year ever.
We had
Back to the Future, RoboCop. No,
maybe.
No, what was the
Ghostbusters?
Other? Ghostbusters. Yeah, tons of great. You
Tons
look it up on the internet. 84
is
is massive.
I think you might be right with RoboCop.
But
83 on the other hand.
is on the other hand referred to sometimes as the worst summer of all time.
Well, so Return of the Jedi came out in May.
Yes.
All right. So, I mean, that was kind of like, well, what's going to compete with that? That's the end of Star Wars, right?
And not to say everything was bad. I mean, War Games is in this.
Okay.
Octopussy, depending on how you feel.
Sure.
But also, we got things like Psycho 2.
Psycho 2.
We get Trading Places came out too. That was also it's a good year for comedy, apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
But Superman 3.
Ooh.
Yeah, this was also the year of the threequel.
Yeah, Jaws 3D.
Jaws 3D. This is the one at the theme park.
Yeah. Porky's 2.
Amityville 3D.
Ooh.
Porky's 2. Yeah,
nice.
The next day.
Yeah.
No one wanted to see the next day.
Next day.
Stroker Ace.
Lonnie Anderson.
Yeah. Zelig, randomly. Not a bad movie.
No, Woody Allen was always making movies, like every year.
Mr. Mom comes out the month before Krull, or the week before Krull.
Wow.
So it was a good year for comedy.
I mean, that was probably why
Risky Business comes out with a great soundtrack.
Sure.
But,
so that's why people weren't seeing Krull. It's because Risky Business...
Smokey and the Bandit 3 comes out this year, Ron.
Oh, the movie without Bandit.
The movie that was originally going to be Smokey is the Bandit.
Yeah.
In which Jackie Gleason was going to play both Smokey and the Bandit. You can find pictures of that online, which I sent you.
Is that now what happened?
No, that's not what happened.
Like, because Burt Reynolds is hardly in that movie.
Yeah, no.
Who's the Bandit?
What's his name? The Snowman? The Iceman?
Oh, it's just him?
Yeah.
Jerry Reed?
Yeah, it's kind of Jerry Reed's film.
Oh, poor Jerry Reed. He deserved better than that.
Well, yeah. There is one Burt Reynolds scene, but it looks like it was probably shot in his driveway.
Yeah, probably.
It's awesome. But, it's Fire and Ice. It's a lot of Krull-level films. Hey, Then drama and comedy had a great year, though, because The Big Chill also comes out.
Oh. Well, that's what... I mean, obviously, this was kind of... Return of the Jedi kind of wrapped up. Like, this was...
Oh, and The Entity. Ooh, that's a weird one.
This was towards the end of, like, the whole fantasy thing, right? Like...
Yeah.
Like, this was, like...
I think we get one more Conan film, though. I think Conan the Destroyer comes out.
Temple of Doom comes out next year.
Which is
84.
Which brings up another great point about this film. This movie also, for all its faults, I'm going to say that it also goes places the other movies won't, can't, or shouldn't go.
Sure.
Like, Temple of Doom is great. Like, so there's a moment where it looks like Indy's going to get squashed.
The room of spikes.
And yes, it is the room of spikes.
Yes.
Room of spikes is one example. And also he reaches in to grab his hat and it looks like he's going to get squashed by the door.
That scene still freaks me out.
Totally.
Yeah.
This movie has someone get squashed by a door and get killed by a room full of collapsing spikes.
Yes. In
Like
slow motion.
Yes. Two separate things.
Yeah.
And like,
just gruesome.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome. It was just like, you've seen this scene before. You know, it's like, you think you know our tropes? Well, guess what? Dead.
Yeah, but they hadn't seen it before.
Because they didn't get till next year.
Yeah, Temple of Doom kind of rips it off.
Yeah. It's weird.
Speaking of deaths.
Yeah.
So, obviously our main characters don't die. Colwyn and the princess.
And,
they do not die. The old man dies by basically dropping sand.
Yeah, that was weird.
Weird death.
I mean, I guess he gets that same kind of death as Obi-Wan in terms of, like, it's kind of his own choice.
Right. But the big breakout names in this, which obviously were not big breakout names, Liam Neeson and Robbie Coltrane, who've gone on to have, very successful careers.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they got their big successful careers because they knew how to die in Krull. Both of them have deaths in Krull, and they both die very well.
That's true, and a lot of deaths in Krull happen, if not off screen, like kinda. Like,
yeah, this is like a PG rated movie, right? It's not like PG-13 or no, because Temple of Doom was the first PG-13,
that's right.
And this is not R.
Yeah, because we see things like I had to remind you. I was like, yeah, the Cyclops gets, spoilers, folks,
Smashed.
he gets smashed in the doorway. And this is a scene I remember seeing this film. I told my wife I saw this movie between 4 and 5. She doesn't believe I had memories from that era. I think I do.
Yeah, because you're scarred.
But I saw it somewhere between 4 and 8 at least, and I've never forgotten the last few scenes where the guy gets killed in the spikes and the Cyclops gets squashed by the door.
Right.
Because it's crazy. The Cyclops was actually holding the door open for everyone to get through, and it slowly crushes him.
Sure.
It's bizarre.
So,
but you don't. It's not gruesome though. Like they keep cutting. Keep cutting to it until he's just about totally squashed, and then he's kind of cut away.
And he's cut away. Yeah. So they spent a lot of money on this movie, right? Like the intention was, like, to make this a big deal, right? Like I imagine that there was like
it's weird though because it doesn't feel like there's any setup for another one.
No, but like I feel
I'm thinking Star Wars didn't necessarily have that either.
No, like so two things.
Yeah.
Merchandising.
Yeah.
Right? Like Star Wars set it up, Lucas set it up, right? Like here's another action adventure fantasy film. Give us, some merchandising, right? What do we get? We get video games.
Mm-hmm.
We get pinball games, pinball machines, right? Card games.
That's for Krull?
Yeah.
Yes. Krull there's a card game.
Card games, a board game.
There's
Is there a board game? Right?
Yep.
No action figures.
No action figures. Very strange.
No
An Atari 2600 game.
Yeah.
An arcade game, too.
And an arcade game.
Yeah.
So there's, like, why? Why was there no action figures? There was action figures for everything. Like
that, I found that bizarre. Like,
right? Like we did a hard search. Like I don't remember being of that age, knowing of any kind of Krull action figures. There was, in our hard search, we couldn't find any Krull action figures.
And there's action figures for such, I think, kind of more random.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Oh yeah, totally. So
was it that the producers were so focused on Dungeons and Dragons that they neglected the action figures?
Well, okay, so
it's odd.
I have I have a theory which is not going to hold true, but like this was a big budget movie, right? It was like $8 million or something at the time, or something. Yeah. It was a
big movie,
big
Great
budget,
film.
right? Like it's. If you go on Internet Movie Database, they say it's a big budget movie.
Sure.
Or at least it's a expensive movie, right?
Definitely.
But where's all the money going? Like, there's no big name actors. Liam Neeson, Robbie Coltrane, they're not big names, at this time. The main characters the actors like Kenneth Marshall, like he was a TV actor. Like
Yeah.
he doesn't really, command a big salary, right?
Yeah.
It's also being shot in Britain, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's no like strange locations. The special effects can't be that expensive.
Well,
right?
a lot of money spent on prop stuff, I'm sure.
I mean, I just like was money being spent on like hookers and blow?
Are you saying like is this a front?
I'm
it's
just like I'm
83.
trying to figure out where the money went because
83. I mean, blow's big, right?
right? Yeah. I mean,
Huh.
if it was shot in Hollywood, yes, I definitely was spent on hookers and blow.
Yeah.
Right, but
certainly.
it was shot in Britain.
Yeah, and they don't know anything about drugs
Yeah.
or hookers.
Tea and hookers.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I don't quite understand. Like, you would think if they're spending this amount of money, like
They could
they
put a
want-
deal together with someone.
yeah,
Mattel, Hasbro, like someone's gonna make.
yeah, like
some-
let's make this thing happen. As it turns out, the secondary market nowadays, you go to a comic book convention,
Mhm.
you can probably buy a glaive, a replica of a glaive.
There's some sweet glaives.
Yeah, if
Definitely.
you do a search for a Krull glaive, you can see numerous sites that have images of the replica of the Krull glaive. You sent me a YouTube video of the actor Ken Marshall on stage at one of the comic book conventions, where he's holding a glaive for the very first time in 30 years.
Yeah, and that's supposed to be supposedly that's an original
Yeah.
thing, but
I think the original is in someone's closet somewhere, and I think also when you sent me that video, I was worried that he was going to hurt himself
Yeah,
with the prop.
immediately he did not seem happy actually.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah, to put things in perspective, put some numbers on it.
yeah.
Budget for this film was $45 to $50 million.
Oh my God, I said $8 million.
Yeah, $1983.
$45 million and
$45 to $50 million.
$1 million for what?
That glaive ain't cheap, bro. But box office, it got a healthy return of $16.5 million.
Well,
So you spend $50 million and you got back 16.
yeah,
Ouch. And that's why we never saw Krull 2.
right. But we have seen. I mean, we did see a comic book adaptation of this.
2 issues, done by. Oh, I have the name in my head. It's guy from Draw Magazine,
Okay,
Brett. It'll come to me later.
Brett Ratner.
Yeah, Brett Ratner.
So
But yeah, so it wasn't like the Dune. It wasn't like the Dune comic book adaptation that had Bill Sienkiewicz.
right,
Yeah.
but like, I don't know. I don't understand the point of this movie. Like,
Oh, we should mention the score also,
yeah,
which sounded like kind of a greatest hits list of like other awesome scores you dug.
it did not sound okay. It was right. Like they did reuse music from other scores.
I mean, the music's by James Horner.
Okay. I thought I read somewhere that they did reuse basically different music from different movies. Reappropriated music from Wrath of Khan. Wrath of Khan, it's right there.
Oh yeah, well, it's reminiscent of
Yes.
Wrath of Khan.
Right.
I mean, Ron. I mean, I wouldn't say it's reappropriated.
Well, but it wasn't the same composer?
It was. You know,
Okay.
it's hard to for that kind of stuff. We've talked about this before. We're not very big score guys necessarily,
Yeah, right.
Because it's one of those things where it's like I find it hard to call out him for doing that when who's the guy that does all the famous scores now for the Dark Knight movies?
Danny Elfman.
No. The Dark Knight, not the original Batman stuff, not the
don't.
the Birdman.
I don't know.
Well, he does that, and he does Man of Steel.
Yeah.
But he also did Mission Impossible 2.
JJ's guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
No.
that's a different guy.
All right.
Sorry, Ron.
John Williams.
No, I shouldn't have brought up scores. Let's
We
move
don't
right
know
along.
anything about
the score.
scores.
Like the film is very generic. Let's put it that way.
Exactly. That's actually the point I did want to make about the score was
Yeah.
like in my head as I'm watching these, and as it's our task to watch these for our Star Wars podcast, I'm trying to correlate what was that Star Wars magic that these movies don't have. Right?
Yeah.
What is it? You know, like they don't have the world building, right? They don't actually explain the logistics of the world.
No, and to be fair, Star Wars doesn't ever explain the Force or anything. Yet it feels like such a more, if you understand inherently the rules better somehow.
Yeah.
You know, and to the point where before we started the podcast, even we talked about names that sound Star Wars and don't sound Star Wars.
Yeah.
Whereas Krull doesn't seem to have that attention to detail.
Sure.
Although I happened to be on the Wikipedia and I was kind of flipping through, and the novelization was actually by Alan Dean Foster.
Of course.
Who else would you get?
But the music too. I mean, the music, it didn't. To me, the music felt like it belonged in a swashbuckler movie of the 1960s.
Which in a weird,
it didn't really
like a Sinbad.
Yeah,
like the old Sinbad.
Yeah, this did not feel like, to me. I was thrown off completely when I was watching this. I was like, okay, this is not a sci-fi movie. Like, this is not it is, as we're tasked ourselves with watching this movie, because we're like, well, it's billed as being very Star Wars-ish.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. It's more Lord of the Rings, but Lord of the Rings before Peter Jackson figured out how to make Lord of the Rings
and yet
play for modern audiences.
It also reveals to me, though, how similar Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, why those two are such direct competitors beyond just being special effects fiascos.
Because this was the simpler version of those two movies.
Yeah, kind of blending them.
Yeah,
and
without any subtext.
Right. I mean, well, other than that, love is very powerful, Ron.
Well, love defeats all.
That's right. Love conquers all.
Right. We should, spoiler, say that's how the movie ends. It's not by the awesome swashbuckling techniques of the hero, not by him wielding the glaive, which has been the highlight of the marketing. No. The only way you defeat evil is by true love. And,
that's right.
And the heroine and the hero join hands, and there may have been a flame involved, and they defeat the evil beast because they are truly in love.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Then they walk off into a field, and the credits roll, and they keep walking.
That is the worst. There's 5 or 6 characters left, and
only 2 of them are in love.
They all. It's like the director's just walk over.
Just keep walking. Keep
little
going.
Bit further.
There. We got more credits. Keep going.
No, it's still going. But Peter Yates, going back to what you're talking about with the soundtrack, how it felt very 60s, an old Sinbad movie or something, and a lot of swashbuckling. I feel that the strongest elements of the film were the things that weren't trying to be Star Wars and weren't trying to be any
Sure.
I feel like Peter Yates, maybe, and this is all inferring, I don't know anything about it,
Right.
but it feels like he had a deeper connection to that old school swashbuckling stuff.
Right.
And that's what he was
Sure.
real. That's where he really his prowess was really shown. The rest of it seemed very
Sure.
Almost the kind of stuff that's first pass stuff where it's okay, you go to your boss, and you're like, I got this idea for this thing, and the boss is kind of vaguely interested, and it's yeah, sure, do it. It's
oh, see, I think it's the other way around.
where it's well, hold on, where it's well, what if it's we need kind of stormtrooper guys, because that's what's, the thing is, and it's well, what if they're slug things, they come out and they do this thing, and it's yeah, okay, sure. And it's what if the big bad guy looks like this, he's kind of goopy, and he looks like a demon thing, and it's rather than, as opposed to having someone at the helm who's no, we need strong design,
Yeah.
when you get a Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Someone who's just yeah, that looks scary. Cool.
Yeah, run with that.
Yeah,
Sure.
run with, exactly. That's what it felt like. It felt like the stuff that was the most in control was like the swashbuckling and all that stuff, and that stuff felt really fun and cool and weird.
Right.
And then then some of the other stuff just seemed like kind of like odd things thrown in.
Right.
It's like,
right.
We're not going to talk about this or deal with it. It's just this weird art direction.
It is funny. It's like,
which, I mean, Star Wars had plenty of that too, but
sure.
It had a strong hand at the helm, making sure like that somehow, like you talk about the internal logic. Like, we may never know. Like, there's no actual technically book written,
right?
Of like what Lucas was thinking for that. But somehow putting like him being at the helm made it all gel.
Right. I think that's the thing. Like, to kind of put a bow on this episode is, like, why wasn't this the next Star Wars? Right? Like, because it came too quickly after Star Wars, right? Like whole podcasts are now dedicated to dissecting Star Wars, right? Not just ours.
What kind of nerds?
Ones, right? Yeah, a bunch of nerds, right? Like
nerds.
And the reason that is because like Hollywood has been trying to dissect Star Wars since its inception,
trying to bottle that lightning,
right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, like a Krull, which came out, the year that the last, original movie of the trilogy came out, Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Like as much as like I feel like we, I've grown up in the modern age. Like, really, like as far as cinema goes, like they couldn't figure out like what all the pieces were that made Star Wars special. Right?
Well,
they couldn't figure it out. They're like, oh, well, just like we need bad guys that kind of look like stormtroopers and blah, blah, blah. And, right? Like, they didn't, like, Star Wars is that special thing because it had all of these elements, right? And it was pulling from all these elements, and it all gelled together, right? And when you don't have all of those elements, right, or they don't all gel together, you get kind of a schlock thing.
Well, and I think there's also something to be said about context. Like, I think, like what you said, like being on the heels of Star Wars was not good because we were done with Star Wars.
We're done with Star Wars.
Like we just got the end of the story.
Yeah. But they didn't give us anything really compelling with Krull either. They were just giving us, more of the same, more, giving us the here's I can't even say spectacle. Here's just something that looks familiar.
Yeah.
Thinking that's good enough.
Well, it's almost like, well, this is from the same playbook. Like, he did this. We're hitting all the same beats.
Right.
But they're not.
And they're not. And let's flash forward to 2015, okay? Age of Ultron comes out, okay? And folks, if you've seen it and you've enjoyed it, that's great. Like, if you've seen all the Marvel movies, that's great. As we've talked about on the show, like, the Marvel movies are great for one viewing, maybe two,
sure,
right?
Yeah,
and then they don't really, like, you start to see the holes.
Yeah.
Right? And maybe that's all they're meant to be. Right? Maybe that's all the creators really want is just like that first, hit of box office, and that's it. But like Star Wars was always, Star Wars has lasted 30 freaking years, right? People dissecting it and turning it inside out and doing this and that with it, right? Whereas like Age of Ultron, like I saw it last, not even a week ago, right?
Well, I don't know if we need to. I don't even know if we need to drag.
I'm not trying to drag Marvel into the mud. What I'm trying to bring up is the fact that I'm using Marvel as an example, but like we still have not been able to successfully. Well, maybe Peter Jackson has, but like we're not able to always 100% capture that lightning in the bottle that Lucas did. right?
Sure. I mean, well, it's. I mean, I would argue that even Lucas hasn't been able to, though.
No, right.
know?
That's on. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
right. It's whether it's the prequels, whether it's the Marvel movies, whether it's DC movies, whether it's any maybe Lord of the Rings has gotten close enough to that.
Sure.
Right, but in 1983, there was no way that people were going to be figure out that equation. This plus this plus this equals
I think that's
this.
I think that's all bigger questions than Krull, though. At this point, we've kind of spun off beyond Krull.
Well, I mean, I just the point I'm trying to make is 1983, trying to recreate the success of Star Wars, and even if that wasn't the point of Krull, it certainly seemed like they were shooting for something.
Sure.
Right?
I think there was just something in the air still that they could, Conan, Krull, there's something here.
There's something there, but they hadn't
there's something about nostalgia, too, looking back, because I think they were also looking beyond Star Wars.
Yeah.
Because, they're not telling Star Wars. Star Wars had a different story about a coming-of-age tale about a young man finding purpose.
Sure.
This guy's a prince.
Right.
And it's more, and his life is set. He's got a woman he loves, and they're getting married, and they're married at the beginning, and he's got to save a damsel in distress. It's going back to a different kind of classic story.
Right.
That, isn't exactly Star Wars. But it's still part of that mindset of, let's go back to Robert E. Howard, Conan. Let's go back to, all these old pulpy things, because there was, something there,
Sure.
And this one's going more back towards, Excalibur, Camelot, that world. And,
what I would say is I think that...
But it's still trying to merge
it's all
it with...
surface level, whereas I think that more and more the movies that are being made today they're trying to delve deeper, pardon the pun, be more granular into what the inner workings of a story is. Instead of just being let's just churn this out and people will buy it.
Well, yeah, they have to. I mean, now, not only is home video a thing, I mean, streaming. There's, it's I can watch part of a movie at work. You can do anything, people are going to analyze and analyze and analyze. You're under a much more stern
microscope. Which goes back to what we were talking about last week with everyone's a critic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I guess what we're saying is probably a remake for Krull. Not going to happen anytime soon unless they really kind of figure out a way to expand on and make the story richer for the modern modern audience.
Who's to say? I think it'd be as likely as anything to see a Krull comedy kind of spoof remake type thing.
What if we got a Krull TV series that was like Game of Thrones?
Or what if we... Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a Babylon... Not Babylon. What's the Battlestar Galactica, Redux?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe... Hey, that could happen.
Sure.
I mean, it's no more schlocky than the original Battlestar.
I think all it takes is for that, that studio executive to walk into that, janitor's closet one day and be like, what's this thing? And he pulls out the original prop of the glaive.
The glaive.
And walks into his boss's office and is like, this is the movie we're making.
And I think that's a great place to put a bow on it.
All right, folks. That is our take on Krull, the movie that could have been the next Star Wars, maybe.
One of what might become a feature. We've got
series,
a whole list of these could have been, should have been...
The schlocky Star Wars.
Yeah. Schlock Wars.
Schlock Wars. All right, folks. Keep listening to future episodes where we talk about this schlock
and Star Wars, of course.
And, of course, Star Wars.
Next week we have something a little more Star Wars related planned. We're going to be talking about EU novel Darth Plagueis.
Oh, yeah. So, all right, folks. As always, be granular, and we'll talk to you soon.
It was a blockbuster summer. Moving pictures got us through to September. They made a movie about me and you, and they made it half nude and half true. There was a blood-sucking summer. I spent half the time trying to get paid for my savior. Swishing through the city center, I did a couple favors for these guys that look like Tusken Raiders.